Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns.
Hello, this is Kim Howerton with Keto Life Support, episode number 164. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk about living in a cruise ship society. What do I mean when I mention living in a cruise ship society? Well, I'm just back from the low-carb cruise. And on the low-carb cruise, I know when I say the words low-carb cruise, you get very excited, potentially thinking, oh, is this a low-carb cruise ship? Is this a cruise ship that offers just specifically low-carb desserts and foods and is geared just towards the low-carbers? No, it's a regular cruise ship. It's a regular cruise ship with I think 5,000, it might be even more people on it. Certainly more than I could count. It is a lot of people on a big ship. And on that big ship, there was a group of about 350 of us who were attending the low carb conference on the cruise. And so there was a little core group of us who eat low carb. And one of the things that I got to experience this past week on said cruise ship was seeing what people mean when they talk about how people eat on cruise ships. Now, I've actually been on cruises before. This isn't my first one. I've been on cruises in the past for the low carb cruise, but I'm just going to talk about this one because it's not that it's worse. It's just the most recent example and it's fresh in my memory. So, the reputation of a cruise as a Food-A-Palooza is well earned. There is food abundance. There are opportunities to eat all sorts of things at all sorts of times. And that ranges from the buffet, or the buffets, to the restaurants on board, to the ice cream station, to the coffee shop with as many free desserts as you want all day long. And it's just everywhere. Not only is it everywhere, but there is this experience, this feeling that you'd be a fool to just get one dessert. Why get one when you can get four, right? And so watching the non-low carbers on the cruise and seeing them, at 4:00 in the afternoon after they've already had breakfast and they've had lunch and it's 4:00 in the afternoon and now they're going to go and get 4 desserts to have with their afternoon coffee before they then in an hour or two head to dinner where they get an appetizer, an entree, maybe 2 and 3 or 4 desserts. And then after dinner, if they're an adult, they might get some alcoholic beverages and finish out the night with late night free pizza. So it is intense here with the food. And there's this pervasive idea like, oh, you're going to miss out if you don't take advantage of this just constant food. I don't want to miss out. And I will say that the first 2 or 3 days, I was like, oh, I can eat this and oh, I can eat that. And making choices that were appropriate in my mind for me. They might not be appropriate for you. We all have different rules around our food. But I went to the fancy place for lunch and then I had a fancy dinner and I was like, ooh, okay. But by a couple of days of that, I was like, I don't need this much food. Am I truly, really wasting the opportunity if I feel less than optimal the way that I'm eating? So I modulated the choices I made to make sure that at the end of the day, not that I felt like a virtuous soul, whatever, but that I was like, oh, I feel good in my body. I want to feel good in my body. don't want to feel like crap all the time, right? And eating the way that everybody eats on these things, I would feel like crap all the time. And so the reason I bring up, not to just talk about me, the reason I bring up this cruise ship mentality, this cruise ship approach to food, I mean, it's not that dissimilar, to be perfectly honest. It's not that dissimilar to what I see in everyday society. We stop here for breakfast, then we stop here for lunch, then we get this thing, this just super hyper palatable foods all day, every day. And so, I realize I think just we've become accustomed to this almost cruise ship food existence. And it's really interesting to get this little microcosm this week to see it and to see what we've normalized in terms of eating. And I don't know that I have I have a point. It's one major point that this is ridiculous and that we don't need to do this, but also just how familiar it is in the everyday world as well. But it's a good opportunity in another way to say, how can I navigate this? Where do I need to place my boundaries? If I'm planning for some reason to loosen my boundaries, where do I want those boundaries? Because for me, living completely boundary free in terms of either food type, food quantity, or paying attention to if I'm actually hungry, all of those things play in to say, should this current food choice have a role in my day? Far be it from me to tell anyone, that if they don't do things 100% by the book, then they're terrible and it's awful. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, place your boundaries where you will, but make sure you have some. And make sure where you've chosen to place those boundaries is based in knowing yourself and knowing what's optimal for you. So if you're planning on going on a cruise, I would suggest going on the cruise with a plan. If you're somebody that needs a little flexibility in some of your choices, I totally support that. But don't have all the things all the time, right? Make some strategic choices. The good news I have for you is most of the dining hall food isn't as great as it looks before you taste it. I said dining hall, cafeteria. What is it? It's a buffet. There we go. But that some of the choices are good. You can stick to the foods that are good for you metabolically, good for you mentally. And if you want to add some treats, again, that's between you and you. But make sure that they're truly treating you well. All right. That's all I had for today, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.